Welcome back to 24 Hours, One Day in Worcester. We hope you've enjoyed the documentary that you just watched. And now we're going to tell you a little bit about how this documentary was made with other members of the ITVA chapter of Central Massachusetts and Central New England. Joining me is, first of all, Ray Schnell, who is the Region 1 Vice President for ITVA. Region 1 includes all of New England and, I believe, New York State as well?
No, just New England.
Just New England.
Just New England. All
right. And joining him now is Elaine Lentini, ITVA member from Central New England, and you've been here in the Central Massachusetts area for several years now, Elaine.
Mm-hmm. True.
And Joe Goodrow, also an ITVA member from Central New England, who worked 24 hours straight on this project, and I know you'll have a lot to talk about. In fact, you and I both worked the midnight to 5 shift.
That's right.
Met a lot of characters there. Well, welcome to all of you, and now let's get right into it. Ray, being the Region 1 VP, why don't you tell us a little bit about what the International Television Association is and why people joined it in the first place?
Well, Jerry, ITVA is a international association of professional video communicators, such as yourself. And in the United States, there are over 9,000 members in just over 100 chapters. And there are 3,000 plus members in I believe 16 different countries around the world.
Now, when you say video communicators, a lot of people might get the idea that that involves broadcast TV, and that's the differentiation here. ITVA is made up of people in non-broadcast settings. What are some of the settings?
Well, there are all settings in different industries, business, aerospace industry, computer industry, the legal services industry. It's primarily corporate and industrial television.
And what will people be doing here in Central New England regarding ITVA? What are some of our members doing locally?
Well, we have a lot of producers, independent producers and production companies as members. Greater Media here is a very strong supporter of our chapter. And there are a few in-house producers that work for companies in the area.
Well, we'll be talking a little bit more about that. Why don't we get into the production itself? 24 Hours, One Day in Worcester. This just didn't come out of anywhere. We do a spring project. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what the spring project is all about?
Well, we try to give our members some professional development activities each year to network with other people, to expand their own horizons in areas where they might not usually get to work. And each year we do a spring project. Last year it was the 24 Hours in Worcester. And it's a good opportunity for our members to work in areas that they might not normally get a chance to. It's also an opportunity for our members to give something back to the community as professionals in the video production environment.
Well, I hope a lot of people got to meet some of our ITVA members that day. We estimate that close to 1,000 people were spoken to or at least shot during the day of taping, and I think we all have a lot of little innuendos to talk about. Elaine, why don't we start with you? You worked the 9 to 5 shift and met a few people. Is there any one image that comes to mind when you think back about May 3rd, 1989?
It was very exciting. There was a lot of energy there as far as wanting to go out and really capture what the essence of Worcester was like. One in particular, one incident, I remember going to a hospital and taping eye surgery. And that was pretty exciting because when we went there, first of all, we had to put on the whole uniform that a person would put on to go into surgery, the cap and the shoes and the whole business. And I was very surprised that the nurses and doctors were so cooperative that they just would let us go in there. And
that was Memorial Hospital, by the way.
Yes, Memorial Hospital, correct. And it was really exciting actually seeing eye surgery performed there.
And it also brings to mind the fact that on any given day, it's the most important day in somebody's life. For this person, she was actually able to see out of her right eye again. And let me tell you, a year later, I'm sure May 3rd, 1989 is still something that she remembers with great fondness. Joe, how about you? What was the biggest thrill for the day for you?
Well, the biggest thrill for the day, I don't know if there was a big thrill. Maybe the flight in the UMass Life Flight helicopter was probably the biggest thrill because of the wind conditions that we had. It wasn't very stable, and the footage might represent that. But it was pretty shaky, and we had fun doing it. One of the most exciting parts of the documentary for me was capturing the subtle aspects of Worcester, the things that are not as sensational, the things that happen, the everyday mundane things, making those events come to life, like people having breakfast in the local cafes, things that people never see, like the eye surgery and the inside of the life flight helicopter, or the fire stations when nothing's going on in the city and the fire station's dead.
One shot that
What do you
comes
got
to
to
mind-
do to make it exciting?
One shot that comes to mind is the video of the firefighters sweeping up their work area with the
Right.
Today Show on in the background. Yeah, they do have some downtime as well.
That's right.
And another area that was also interesting was the midnight to 5 shift with the blinking lights of the city. Some people might not realize that Main Street after midnight is just a series of blinking reds and yellows, and that made for some interesting video too. Ray, to start off 24 hours one day in Worcester, there was so much pre-production going on that we actually had to go elsewhere for some advice. I know that Channel 5 out in Boston had done a day in the life of Massachusetts, and we went down there and talked about it. Why don't you refresh our memories about that day?
Sure, yeah. We spent a day, a good part of a day, talking with the producer, Jerry Kirschenbaum, from Channel 5, and he gave us some insights as to how to go about doing something like this, what to look for, what to avoid, because in video there are certain things that you really need to avoid in order to achieve technical quality. And then there's the schedule that you need to adapt to so you don't overlap. Certain crews don't show up at the same place at the same time. There were a lot of technical details that we needed to work out first before we decided to go ahead with this.
I remember going to that meeting and I was amazed. Now, they had, I think, 15 crews covering the entire state of Massachusetts in that one day. One thing that he made clear to us, it had to be on a weekday. He said Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, preferably. He also thought that if you're going to do this, you might as well have still photographers out there as well, capturing some stills, and we tried to incorporate that into the show. He also gave us a list of shots that we needed to at least take a look at and hopefully get, and there's so many different ones. Insects, whoever thought of insects, the parents teaching children, animal faces, hands at work and rest, death and dying, it just goes on and on. People in music, births, widgets, gasoline used, how many cups of coffee drank during the day, people taking pictures.
A lot of
There's-
little events.
Yeah.
Little tiny events that make up the fabric of the city.
And as you were saying earlier, it's not so much the fires that we're interested in, and knowing that you're a news photographer sometimes, it's probably hard to get out of that mode, that, yeah, somebody picking up a cup of coffee and drinking it is something to shoot.
Well, it was kind of frustrating at a point because we wanted to get, in all the crews that I went out with, I think we went out with 4 different crews, and we always wanted, in the back of our minds, or even in conversations, we were saying, boy, I wish something would happen. We were hanging out at fire stations and staking out different places, and nothing really exciting on the level of major news happened, and so it was definitely frustrating in that regard, because and that's okay, because it forced us to look at other things, and we did, we did do a lot of things that were unusual, like when the circus was in the area, we went down by the fire station, and we actually snuck into the circus tents. They had all the animals sleeping, and we popped our camera in, and we were looking around, and the mamas and all those different animals were looking
All
at
sound
us,
asleep.
and what are you doing in here now? All these unusual things going on.
That's what-
Chasing the street cleaners down the street, trying to get shots of that. And
They had the roads in themselves,
Yeah.
too, right?
Yeah. One thing that we wanted our shooters to keep in mind was that we didn't want them to concentrate on the hard news type things, because we would be waiting for things to happen that weren't going to happen.
Right.
One of the things that the producer at Channel 5 told us to concentrate on is the ordinary things that are happening, rather than waiting for the spectacular to happen. Being in television, some things that we're used to dealing with is the high-polished look, the glamour, the action. But what we were looking for in this piece is what's going on every day, which might go unnoticed by somebody else.
And one of the things that comes to mind is what happened on one of your crew shoots, Elaine, the 2 kids in front of City Hall, the 2 friends from one of Worcester's neighborhoods.
Yeah, we just, what we tried to do, again, is just pick out those little details of someone's ordinary life every day. And we were going by City Hall, and we saw some kids just kind of playing around the hall there. And we started to just interview them and say, oh, what are you doing here? And they were saying, oh, we're really good friends, and we like coming out here and being with each other. And it was just kind of interesting to see that camaraderie, and we took some photographs of that, and they posed for us a few times too, because they were kind of proud of the fact that they were going to be on TV.
Yeah, and how about the guy that wanted to fight Mike Tyson?
Oh, yes. Well, that was another instance where we were trying to look for everyday kind of things, and I was with Tim Young, another crew member. We happened to drive by the Ionic Boys Club, and I said, oh, we should go in there, just check out what's going on in there. I hadn't been inside before. And we came in, and we saw a lot of children. It was after school, playing all kinds of games in there. It's a big recreation area. And they were just enthralled to see us. And it turned out that they were doing some boxing there as far as training some of the young kids to be boxers. And I guess basically to keep some of them out of trouble and give them something to do. So they let us go in and see some kids training. And one kid just came up and says, I'm going to be the next Mike Tyson.
It was a great line.
Yeah,
Well, I won't forget for a while. Joe, any other thoughts on some of the faces during the day?
Oh, the faces. It was funny. We were mentioning downtown late at night, and it was after the bars had closed, and there was this one individual who was slightly inebriated,
Yep.
following my crew around. I was with Mike Tillotson and Marla Ettenberg, who's an attractive woman, and this guy drove by and he says, oh, and he followed us from location to location for the rest of the night, trying to strike up conversation with Marla, and it was an unbelievable thing. We finally got rid of him after about an hour.
How about the guy that was fixing the flat tire at like 2 in the morning? Remember him?
No, I don't.
Sometimes these images go far beyond even the video
Well,
camera.
it's been a while.
That's true. That's true. And animals, too, played a role during the day. You had some excellent footage of squirrels and birds at Elm Park that I'll never forget.
Yeah, I thought animals were an important thing because they're here in the city. They entertain us a lot of times in the park, and that's the aspect I was looking for when I was shooting in the park, is getting the animals at play or feeding themselves and foraging for food and that kind of thing.
All right, well, we're going to continue our discussion of Day in the Life of Worcester and how it was made, and we'll take that right after this break, so stay with us. Welcome back to 24 Hours, the making of a day in the life of Worcester. And we're going to continue now with ITVA members from Central New England. It was part of their spring project to produce this documentary, one that I certainly think the ITVA hopes will be part of an archive of how life was on May 3rd, 1989 for future generations to see. Ray Schnell, why don't we go back to you for a second. One of the interesting things in pre-production of this story was to not let the press know, or if letting them know, to keep it out of the public eye until after the day.
Yeah, that's one thing that we needed to concern ourselves with, was controlling who knew about this event and who we didn't want to know about this event.
What was the reason behind that? What was the purpose?
Well, we wanted some the media to know what we were doing, but we didn't want them to release the information to the public before May 3rd because, as you know, people, when you set a TV camera up on the street, people change the way they are, what they do. They may go out and buy a new dress or wash their car or something out of the norm, and that's what we were looking to avoid. So we wanted to delay the release of the information on this as much as possible.
Any thoughts on that?
I know 10 people that ran out and bought new jackets when they saw us come by with our cameras. No.
Well, talking about the television camera angle, you were able to get access to virtually anything. Now, a lot of people think... Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, well, a lot of people think that some of this was pre-planned or preoccupied. Really, of the hundreds of things that we went on, that wasn't the case. Even going up in the helicopter, that was done that morning within an hour of you going up into the helicopter. That's how we had to do the day. We couldn't tell where people
Well, most
were gonna
people behind this, people out there watching the show don't realize the amount of coordination it took to get these events to happen. For instance, at the production studio, we had the command center set up with radio communications for all the crews. We had our problems with that. It worked sometimes, it didn't, but it helped out most of the day in coordinating what was going on. The person who was assigned to being producer was also given the responsibility to come up with ideas, to kind of go through the list and make sure that these shots were getting photographed. And it was a big task. And one of the things that helped us tremendously was getting the support of the city and issuing the proclamation of ITVA Day and using that document along with a letter from the mayor to get into various places like the fire departments were, as soon as they saw the proclamation, they announced it all over the city that, let these guys in, they can do anything they want. And we kind of had carte blanche based on that document. People were allowing us in their kitchens.
Right, just FYI for people watching, this was a letter signed by City Manager Jeff Mulford, the mayor, at that time Worcester Police Chief Tom Leahy, and the Worcester County Conventions and Visitors Bureau Maureen Gardner all signed a letter letting us have access to the city for a day, basically, is what it came down to. Yeah. How about you? Did you get any animals during the day?
Yes. We managed to photograph part of the circus going into the Centrum. And we got a few elephants connecting tails with trunks. And, yeah, that was kind of exciting.
You also got that roaring lion waiting for the show to go on.
Yes. I stayed away from there. But what Joe was saying about, and you were saying about having access to things, it really was amazing. We're used to sometimes in our field, when people see a camera, they say, no, you can't come in here. Mm-hmm. But when they saw the letter, it basically gave us carte blanche to go where we wanted. We also tried to be as unobtrusive as possible. Sometimes we would just pretend that we were supposed to be somewhere without asking permission, and just go and take our camera up there and look as if we belonged. And then people kind of left us alone. And we were able to get some shots that way where, if the security guards had questioned us, we might have had some problems. But we managed to avoid that somehow.
Yeah, it was. In fact, we got into places that I never thought we would get into.
Well, getting on the life-flight helicopter was really
an
unbelievable
thing to do.
Because I've covered a lot of news events in the past, and I was assigned, get this helicopter shot, get these shots of these people being stretchered in or something, and getting on the property at UMass when there's an emergency is almost impossible. Mm-hmm. And their PR department is like, they're all over you immediately when they see a camera, and I was surprised they let us on. It was amazing.
Yeah, they were very good throughout the day, and a lot of other hospitals really did yeoman's work to get some of this stuff on the air for us too. Ray, why don't you tell us a little bit about what Jerry Kirschenbaum from Channel 5 talked about in terms of clocks and the need to show time passing during the day in some unique ways?
Well, he told us to capture the essence of time throughout the day, from sunrise the first morning to the sunrise the next morning, and in a variety of ways, whether it was a radio announcer telling what time it is during his news broadcast, or the clock downtown in front of City Hall. He just basically said, get as many different variations of the time of day, which will also help your editor in post, so we know where the footage came from and what time of day it was when it was shot.
What were you thinking when you got the clock tower near Elm Park at midnight?
Basically how quiet it was at midnight. It was very, very still. The bell sound, trying to get the essence of that moment, that striking of midnight is sometimes it's difficult, you know, but I was surprised that it was just very quiet, and that's what I was thinking about.
Interesting. Elaine, how about you in clocks during the day? Anyone that comes to mind, a specific one that you captured?
We seem to pass the one in front of City Hall about 5 million times because it's so prominent. And the one at the T&G also, that was fairly prominent too.
Which brings us to a point, the fact that it sounds like you were assigned to downtown, and we
Yes.
did quadrant off the city. Talk about that,
Correct.
the quadrants of the city.
Yeah, we had, as you may have mentioned, we had several crews going out in a certain block of time, and we were all assigned to different quadrants so that we didn't cover the same events. And we basically covered the downtown. We were in the Shawmut building. In fact, we even got to go inside the Telegram and Gazette and got to see a news meeting, them deciding what would be on the front page for the following day.
And the
that was pretty
interesting thing was, it was happening at 5 o'clock on Wednesday for the headline at 5 in the morning the next day.
Right, and they were very generous, allowing us to be there and tape their editors making decisions for the next day. So we got to hear a few things that were going to happen beforehand, and that was pretty
fascinating.
interesting.
How about the nightlife of the city of Worcester? Was that surprising? I guess you were not on the night shift, right?
No.
Well, we'll turn to Joe. The nightlife in the city of Worcester. Anything surprising on an average Wednesday of what goes on?
No, not really. I mean, when I first started getting involved in the news gathering end of my business, I started out doing midnight to 4 in the morning, and so I was kind of excited to have that opportunity to be out in the early morning time, and you know, it's really a peaceful time. You see a lot of unusual people on the street. You see lonely people looking for companionship still at 3 in the morning. You see people who are done entertaining themselves for the night, and they're settling in at the various restaurants trying to grab something to eat before they go to bed. And you see the vagabonds out there and the street people emerging, and you know, it's an interesting time of day. The police are out, you know, and the people are selling papers at 1 o'clock in the morning, and you know, it's just there's a whole, I don't know if you want to call it a subculture, but there's a whole culture that comes out after midnight, and it's an interesting subject matter to be involved with.
What about workers then? Did you capture any of the
Yeah, there are a lot of
people
people
working?
who are changing shifts or about to go to work at that time too.
You know, one of my favorite stories of the day, and it just popped into my head, we were shooting around Kelly Square. It was around 2 in the morning, and I was taking a shot of the line of telephone booths that's right outside the Exxon station there. And this old beat-up pickup truck comes into the thing and screeches to a halt in front of our camera, and I'm going, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? Are they taking our camera or what? Out pops Joe Abudi from the El Morocco. And he says, what are you guys doing here? It's 2:30 in the morning. And we were trying to explain to him, and he goes, you guys must be starving, he says. Next thing I know, he has our entire crew in that Exxon Mini Mart, and he's saying, have anything you want, take anything off the shelves, eat whatever you need to do to get some energy and get back out there. He goes, I think what you're doing is great. And then off he takes in his beat-up pickup truck, the owner of the El Morocco. One of the best shots of the whole thing is up at the El Morocco from seeing the sunset over the city of Worcester. A lot of people might consider this an old mill town, as we've all heard in the New York Times over and over again, but to go up to the El Morocco and see the sunset and some of the spectacular sunrise video that we saw from different sections of the city really shows Worcester in a true art form, and it's nice to have.
You know, you mentioned about being excited about doing this, and I have to say, you really, when we were going out there and people noticed that they were going to be videotaped, they were really proud of the city and what we were doing. They seemed very excited that someone was taking the time to photograph the city and see all the neat things about Worcester, that it wasn't just, you know, the middle of Massachusetts somewhere, that it really has its own identity and its own culture, and that part was kind of nice to see that and see how proud people were of doing their job every day too, being conscientious about that.
We didn't get many negative comments from people about the city itself. People were in general pretty proud of what
Absolutely
they were
right.
doing in the city and proud of the city, too.
Well, we only have about a minute and a half to go. It's been a fascinating conversation, but I want to give Ray Schnell a chance to talk about what ITVA Central New England is doing for a project this year. Now that the documentary is in the can and over with, what is the spring project of 1990?
Well, this year's opportunity for our members is a documentary on the Earth Day activities in central New England and Worcester in particular, and surrounding communities. I contacted the Regional Environmental Council, and they were very happy to have us become involved in their efforts. So we had a few crews go out and cover some different things that were happening around Worcester.
Hopefully we can bring into sharper focus some of the environmental concerns right here in central New England, as only ITVA members can do with the great resources that each and every member brings to the organization. I thank you all for joining us, and it was certainly a project that none of us at this table will forget anytime soon, and we hope that members of the Worcester community will long relive May 3rd, 1989. We will be donating that tape to the Worcester Public Library very soon. That's it for this report, 24 hours, one day in Worcester. Thanks for watching, everybody, and please have a wonderful summer.